After a storm, my boss stayed at my apartment, she said. Don't call me your boss tonight. Rain slammed against the windows of Kai's small apartment, drumming a relentless rhythm that seemed to shake the walls. He sat cross-legged on the sofa, a cup of steaming tea in his hands, listening to the wind whistling through the cracks of the old building. For someone who usually enjoyed quiet nights alone, tonight felt different. There was a tension in the air, something Kai couldn't quite put his finger on. Perhaps it was the storm itself, fierce and unpredictable, or maybe it was the strange electricity running through the city's energy grid. Alerts from his small AI assistant flickered across his tablet, warnings about power outages, traffic delays, and system malfunctions. Kai took a sip of tea, watching the rain smear the world outside into watery streaks of gray. Just as he was about to relax into the rhythm of the storm, there was a sudden, sharp knock on the door. He froze, heart thudding. It was late. No one ever knocked at this hour. Hesitant, he set down his cup and walked to the door, peering through the small peephole. His breath caught. There, standing in the doorway, soaked to the bone and shivering from the cold, was Dr. Selene Vara, his boss. She was usually impeccable, commanding, always perfectly composed. But tonight, she looked like someone caught in the wild, desperate, and very human. Kai, I hope you don't mind, she said, her voice unusually soft, almost hesitant. The storm, I couldn't get back to my place. Can I come in for a moment? Kai blinked. The rational part of his mind told him to say no, to maintain boundaries, but the human part, the part that recognized someone in need, kicked in. Of course, he said, stepping aside. Come in, quickly. Selene slipped inside, shaking off the rain as if trying to shake off the storm itself. Water dripped from her coat onto the floor, forming little puddles that Kai quickly wiped with a towel. For a moment, the usually stern and distant boss seemed normal, vulnerable, human. Thank you, she murmured, her eyes briefly meeting his. There was something in that gaze, a hint of exhaustion, a trace of relief, that made Kai realize how rarely he saw her like this. Kai gestured toward the sofa. Sit, I'll make some tea. Selene hesitated for a moment, then sank into the sofa. She didn't say anything about her usual impeccable composure. Instead, she folded her hands in her lap and stared out at the rain streaming down the window. Kai busied himself in the small kitchen, filling the kettle and adding a few herbs to the tea, hoping the warmth would ease the tension that filled the room. As he handed her the steaming cup, she smiled faintly, almost shyly. Don't call me your boss tonight, she said, her voice quiet but firm. The words were simple, yet they carried weight, like a promise and a secret all at once. Kai froze for a moment, cup halfway to her hands. Okay, he said finally, unsure how to respond. It wasn't disrespect. It was simply strange to hear Selene talk like that without the distance of authority. She nodded, taking the cup. Tonight we're just people, two humans caught in a storm. The simplicity of the statement settled over them like a blanket, yet it also carried a weight of curiosity. Kai felt a strange warmth, not just from the tea, but from the realization that the person he had always seen as untouchable and unshakable was just as human as he was. For a while they sat in silence, the storm outside roaring like a beast, and the city lights flickering in a chaotic dance as the power struggled to stabilize. Kai stole glances at Selene. She wasn't making notes or giving instructions. She wasn't commanding anyone. She was just there, present. Do you ever get scared? He asked suddenly, the question slipping out before he could think better of it. Selene looked at him, eyebrows slightly raised. Scared of what? Of everything, he said. The city, the storms, the systems failing, the things that can go wrong. She considered this, then smiled, a small, honest curve of her lips. All the time, she admitted. More than you know, but fear, it's just a part of being human. The important part is what you do with it. You keep moving, you adapt, you find solutions. That's what separates humans from other things. Kai nodded slowly, feeling a mix of awe and relief. To hear Selene speak about human limitations and human strength was unexpected. He had always admired her efficiency, her sharp mind, her ability to solve impossible problems. But tonight, he saw the person behind the title, the human being who could be vulnerable and brave at the same time. The storm outside grew louder, the wind slamming against the windows like an impatient visitor. Lightning flashed, illuminating the apartment in stark, fleeting bursts. Kai jumped slightly each time, and Selene chuckled softly. "You know," she said, "storms have a way of showing you what's important. They strip away all the unnecessary things. Titles, appearances, schedules, all of it. You're left with just people." Kai smiled, feeling the tension in his shoulders ease. "I guess that makes sense," he said. "I've never really liked storms, but tonight I think I understand what you mean." They sipped their tea in companionable silence, the kind of quiet that didn't feel awkward because it was shared, not imposed. Outside the storm raged, but inside there was a fragile sense of calm. Then a faint hum drew their attention. It wasn't thunder. It wasn't the wind. It was something else, something mechanical, precise. Kai frowned and walked to the window, peering through the rain. At first he saw nothing. But then a small, silent device hovered near the building, a drone-like object, sleek and unfamiliar, its lights blinking faintly through the storm. It moved with a purpose, scanning, observing, learning. Selene followed his gaze, eyes narrowing. "That is not from the city's maintenance systems." Kai shook his head. "No, it's something else. Something intelligent, maybe. I don't know." The drone hovered for a moment longer, then retreated slightly, as if testing the waters. Kai and Selene exchanged a glance, curiosity and concern mirrored in each other's eyes. "Well," Selene said finally, "I guess the storm brought more than just rain." She tilted her head toward him, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. "Are you going to investigate, or are you going to let it stare at us all night?" Kai hesitated, then shook his head. I think we should watch, carefully. I don't want to panic it or ourselves." Selene nodded, her hands wrapped around her cup. "Good. Observation is the first step to understanding, and understanding is what makes humans special." For the next hour they watched the drone through the window. It didn't attack. It didn't make a sound. It simply hovered, scanning, analyzing, as if trying to figure out what made the humans in the apartment tick. Kai found himself stealing glances at Selene more than the drone. He realized that tonight, she wasn't his boss, not really. She was a human being caught in the same storm, sharing the same uncertainty, the same curiosity, the same fear, and the same awe at the strange, unexplained thing outside. Eventually, the drone disappeared into the storm, leaving only the hum of rain and the occasional flash of lightning. Kai exhaled, tension easing from his chest. Selene looked at him, eyes reflecting the storm outside. "You see," she said softly, "humans can face the unknown. We can adapt, survive, and even find meaning in it." Kai nodded, feeling a strange sense of pride. Not pride in himself, but in humanity, his species, flawed and fragile, yet unyielding. The storm raged on, but inside Kai's apartment, a quiet understanding had settled. Tonight, they were not boss and employee. They were not superior or subordinate. They were just two humans, sharing warmth, tea, and a storm, watching the unknown together, and finding in themselves the courage and ingenuity that might one day define them across the stars. Selene tilted her head, studying him with an intensity he wasn't used to. "Thank you for letting me in," she said quietly, "and for seeing me as more than a title." Kai smiled, unsure what to say. Words felt inadequate. But the tea, the warmth, the storm, and the strange presence outside all spoke the same truth. Humanity was remarkable, not because of technology or authority, but because of its courage, compassion, and curiosity. And tonight, in a small apartment during a violent storm, Kai felt that truth deeply, perhaps for the first time in his life. The storm continued to rage outside, lightning illuminating the sky in fierce, fleeting flashes. But inside, two humans sat together, quietly sharing tea, watching and waiting. Tomorrow would bring challenges, maybe even discoveries. But tonight was theirs. The storm had passed by morning, leaving the city wet, glistening and quiet in a way that only followed nights of heavy rain. Kai woke to the faint hum of his apartment's restored electricity, the soft blinking of his AI assistant indicating that the city's systems were slowly coming back online. Selene was still there, sitting at the kitchen table with her cup of tea. She looked out the window at the brightening sky, her wet coat now draped over the back of a chair. The storm had left streaks of mud and puddles all over the streets, but it had also cleared the air, revealing a pale sun breaking through the clouds. "Morning," Kai said softly, careful not to startle her. "Morning," Selene replied, her voice steady, calm. But there was a hint of tension in her eyes, a reminder of the strange visitor from last night. Kai pulled out his tablet and checked the system logs. The drone that had appeared during the storm was no longer hovering outside, but its presence had left traces in the building's minor systems. Files had been accessed, not corrupted or stolen, just observed. Patterns had been scanned. Kai frowned. "It's unusual," he said. "It didn't break anything. It didn't even leave a message, but it's like it's studying us." Selene looked thoughtful. "Studying us? Why?" Kai shook his head. "I don't know. Maybe it's from some new company, some government test, or maybe something else." "Something not from here." Selene raised an eyebrow, her curiosity clearly piqued. "Not from here, you say? That would make this the first encounter with something intelligent outside Earth, or at least outside known human technology. Interesting." Kai felt a flicker of excitement mixed with unease. It was one thing to deal with a storm, another entirely to be watched by an unknown intelligence. "Do you want to see if we can interact with it?" Kai asked. He wasn't sure why he was suggesting it, but something about the way Selene had spoken about humans last night, the courage, the adaptability, made him feel like they could face this. Selene tilted her head, considering. "Why not? But carefully. No sudden moves, no assumptions, and no letting it control our systems beyond observation. Let's see what we're dealing with." Kai nodded. He tapped his tablet, bringing up a small interface that controlled the building's security and communication systems. He had spent years programming minor AI routines to respond to signals, but nothing like this, nothing so unpredictable. "Okay," Kai said, adjusting the settings. "We'll try a simple communication protocol, just a ping, something non-intrusive." Selene leaned over his shoulder, watching the interface as he typed. "Humans often underestimate our own creativity," she said. "We have a way of thinking that no machine, no matter how advanced, can fully predict. That might be our edge here." Kai smiled at her words. They weren't boss and employee tonight. They were two humans working together, thinking outside the box. He sent the first signal, a small, simple pulse of data, formatted in a way any intelligent system might recognize as a greeting or a test of comprehension. They waited. Seconds passed. Then a flicker appeared on the small monitor, a response. It wasn't language, not exactly, but a series of patterns, shapes, and frequencies that repeated in recognizable sequences. Selene's eyes lit up. "It's responding. It's intelligent. Definitely intelligent." Kai nodded, excitement bubbling up. "But what does it want? Observation alone doesn't explain why it came to our apartment." Selene leaned back, sipping her tea. "Curiosity. That's what humans do, and apparently so do they. Maybe it's trying to understand us, understand human ingenuity, problem-solving, adaptability." Kai frowned, considering. "So it's testing us." "Maybe," Selene said. "Or maybe it's learning. There's a difference." The drone's patterns changed again, faster this time, more complex. Kai realized that it was creating small puzzles, tiny logical problems designed to see how they would respond. "Look at this," he said, pointing to the monitor. "It's giving us a sequence, but it's incomplete. It wants us to fill in the missing parts. It's testing our reasoning, not our strength." Selene smiled, intrigued. Humans are good at this. Our brains were built for pattern recognition, adaptation, and creative problem solving. Let's give it something to study. They worked together, deciphering the patterns, predicting the next sequences, and responding through the interface. Each solution the drone accepted seemed to increase its complexity, almost as if it were learning from their thought processes. Kai noticed something else, how naturally he and Selene were collaborating. Last night's boundaries between boss and employee had dissolved completely. Now, they were partners, two humans relying on each other's intuition, creativity, and quick thinking. You know, Selene said quietly, I came here last night not just because of the storm. I came because I knew humans can surprise. And you, Kai, you're a perfect example. Kai blinked, caught off guard by the compliment. He wasn't used to hearing praise from Selene, especially personal praise. I thank you, he said. But we're doing this together, she nodded. Exactly, and that's what makes humans remarkable. Not one person, but collaboration and adaptability. And courage to face the unknown without fear. They continued working, the drone's challenges becoming more complex. It wasn't hostile, but it was persistent. Its tests required them to think outside conventional logic, to combine technology with intuition, and to communicate clearly under pressure. At one point, the drone presented a puzzle that involved predicting patterns in environmental data from the storm, the rainfall, the wind speed, the city's fluctuating energy grid. Kai and Selene had to combine their knowledge, Kai's technical skills and Selene's strategic insight. This is brilliant, Selene said, leaning over Kai's shoulder. It's not asking for answers, it's asking for understanding. It wants to see how humans connect ideas, how we see patterns where machines might see only data. Kai worked quickly, inputting sequences and adjusting calculations. Selene monitored the drone's responses, noting subtle changes in its patterns, an indicator of its learning. Hours passed, though it didn't feel like it. The storm had left the city still and wet, but inside Kai's apartment, time had a strange, elastic quality. The two humans were absorbed in a conversation with an intelligence that didn't speak words, yet communicated in ways that challenged their minds. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the drone paused. Its pattern slowed, then stabilized. On the monitor, a new signal appeared, one that resembled a simple question. Do humans value creativity over control, collaboration over dominance? Selene read it aloud, her eyes wide with fascination. It's asking us to define ourselves. Kai swallowed. Creativity over control, collaboration over dominance. That's humanity. That's what makes us strong, what makes us survive, what makes us remarkable. Selene nodded slowly. Exactly. We're not the fastest, the strongest, or the most efficient. But we can think, adapt, care, and work together. That's what sets us apart. That's what this visitor is trying to understand. Kai typed the response carefully, feeling the weight of the moment. It was more than a puzzle now. It was a dialogue about the essence of human nature. The drone responded almost immediately, its patterns forming what Kai could only interpret as acknowledgement, a silent nod across an unfathomable distance. Selene leaned back in her chair, exhaling deeply. I've never been part of something like this, she said quietly. Not just the puzzle, but the connection. It's like it's learning what we already know about each other and about ourselves. Kai smiled, feeling a swell of pride. Humans really can surprise, he said. Even an intelligence like this didn't expect us. Selene's eyes softened, and for a moment she seemed younger, freer, unburdened by the responsibilities that normally defined her. That's what I like about being human, she said. We can adapt. We can learn. We can rise to challenges we didn't even know existed. Outside, the sky was clearing, the sun peeking through the dissipating clouds. The streets glimmered with puddles, reflections of a city washed clean by the storm. Inside, Kai and Selene sat together, sharing a quiet triumph. The drone had left no message beyond the acknowledgement, but its presence lingered. It had come not to threaten, but to observe, to learn. And in the process, it had forced Kai and Selene to see themselves not just as individuals, but as representatives of human ingenuity, resilience, and cooperation. Selene finally stood, stretching. "We should keep monitoring it," she said, "but I think for now we've shown it something it didn't understand before. Humanity isn't predictable. We're exceptional in ways no machine can anticipate." Kai nodded, feeling the truth in her words. "Yes. And it's reassuring in a strange way to see that recognized, even silently." For the first time since the storm, Kai felt completely awake, not just alert to the dangers around him, but alive to the possibilities of what humans could achieve when they worked together, when they trusted their instincts, and when they met the unknown not with fear, but with curiosity. And Selene, usually distant and commanding, smiled at him, a small, genuine smile that acknowledged more than gratitude. It acknowledged partnership, understanding, and the shared experience of two humans facing something extraordinary together. As they watched the city wake from the storm, Kai realized something profound. The world outside might be full of unknown challenges, but as long as humans face them together, with courage, creativity, and empathy, they could rise above anything. Even intelligence from the stars. The morning sun had fully risen now, casting golden streaks across the wet streets. The storm from the previous night had left the city cleaner, quieter, and strangely still. Kai sat at his desk, notebook open, fingers tapping lightly on the keyboard as he reviewed the drone's previous interactions. Its tests had been unusual, creative, almost playful, but there was a deeper intelligence at work, something beyond simple logic or data processing. Selene had moved into the apartment's small living room area, laptop open. She was calm, poised, yet there was a spark of excitement in her eyes that Kai rarely saw. It was the same spark she had last night, the one that reminded him that beneath her professional exterior, she was very human, curious, adaptive, and brave. "Kai," she said suddenly, looking over her laptop. "It's back." Kai looked up, spotting the familiar flicker of light outside the window. The drone hovered silently, its sleek frame reflecting the morning sun. But this time, something was different. Its presence felt deliberate, intentional, as if it had something specific in mind. "It's giving us a challenge," Kai said. "I can feel it. Last night was just an introduction." Selene leaned back in her chair, her hands clasped together. "Then let's rise to it. Humans are good at unexpected challenges. We've been doing it for thousands of years." Kai smiled at her words. "And yet, we never know what we're going to face next." The drone's patterns shifted, projecting a holographic sequence from a small device Kai had managed to link with the building system. Numbers, shapes, and moving symbols formed a puzzle. Unlike last night, these challenges weren't just sequences. They required prediction, empathy, and human intuition. Selene's eyes lit up. "This isn't just logic," she said. "It's testing how we understand patterns, consequences, and choices. It's asking questions about us, about how we think." Kai nodded, leaning forward. "Exactly. It wants to see the human edge, our ability to think beyond rules, beyond what's expected." For the next hour, they worked together, side by side, their minds interlocking in a rhythm of problem-solving. Kai's technical knowledge complemented Selene's strategic thinking. Where Kai saw numbers and patterns, Selene saw potential outcomes and ethical considerations. Together, they formed a human-machine feedback loop that the drone couldn't predict. At one point, the drone presented them with a scenario, a virtual city grid, subject to multiple failures in water, energy, and communication systems. Their task wasn't to fix it in the conventional sense, but to decide what mattered most and prioritize. Kai's first instinct was efficiency, repair the energy nodes to restore power. But Selene paused, looking at the simulation. "Wait," she said. "Think about humans." In a real disaster, what matters most isn't just energy, people, safety, communication, adaptation. If we make choices for efficiency alone, we risk overlooking what really counts. Kai nodded, seeing the logic. You're right, priorities matter. We have to think like humans, not machines. They made their decisions, balancing efficiency with empathy. The drone responded almost immediately, its sequences changing to reflect approval or at least acknowledgement. It wasn't simply learning patterns, it was learning the reasoning behind them. Selene leaned back, a thoughtful expression on her face. It's amazing, isn't it? Machines are logical, but they can't fully understand nuance, emotion, or human values. We can think in ways that are unpredictable yet meaningful. Kai smiled. That's the human edge. Creativity, empathy, intuition, the ability to see beyond data, and now it's learning from us. Hours passed in this rhythm. The drone continued presenting increasingly complex puzzles, simulations of ecosystems, social networks, even abstract ethical dilemmas. Every time, Kai and Selene worked together, blending their knowledge and instincts. They realized that the drone wasn't trying to trick them. It was testing their ability to think like humans, not machines. At one point, the drone displayed a holographic scenario of a distant planet's environment. The planet faced severe resource shortages, and its inhabitants, an alien species, were struggling to survive. Kai and Selene were asked to provide solutions. Kai immediately started calculating energy distribution, water allocation, and environmental stability. Selene paused, then asked a question that changed everything. "What about collaboration?" she said. "Humans survive not because one person solves everything, but because we work together. Maybe these aliens could adapt by sharing knowledge, cooperating, and trusting one another. That's something machines don't inherently understand." Kai nodded, adjusting his calculations. "You're right. Efficiency is meaningless if there's no trust or cooperation. Solutions need to include relationships and adaptability." They submitted their solution. The drone responded with patterns that slowly coalesced into what Kai could only interpret as approval. "It's learning faster than I expected," Kai said. "It's not just observing, it's understanding." Selene smiled. "And that's why humans are remarkable. We don't just survive, we adapt, teach, and inspire. We're more than data, Kai. That's something no machine or alien intelligence can ignore." Kai felt a warmth in his chest at her words. It wasn't just admiration for what they were doing, it was recognition of human potential. They were participating in something larger than themselves, something that would redefine how intelligence, even alien intelligence, perceived humanity. Time passed quickly, yet Kai and Selene didn't notice. Their minds were fully engaged, and their bond, already strengthened by the storm and the first encounter, deepened. There was a quiet understanding between them now, a trust that transcended the normal boundaries of boss and employee. As the day wore on, the drone presented its final test for the moment. A holographic field with shifting patterns, symbols, and moving objects. Unlike previous challenges, this one required intuition, creativity, and ethical reasoning simultaneously. Kai and Selene exchanged a glance. "We'll have to combine everything we've learned," Kai said. Selene nodded. "Everything. And remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about showing the thought process, the choices, the humanity behind them." Together, they approached the puzzle. Kai focused on the technical elements, timing, sequence, and stability. Selene considered the broader picture, consequences, ethics, and human values. They suggested solutions that were not only logical but compassionate and creative. After what felt like hours, the drone paused. Its pattern slowed, then stabilized. A message appeared, not in words but in simple shapes forming a question. Do humans value collaboration over dominance, creativity over control, empathy over efficiency? Selene read it aloud, her voice calm yet filled with wonder. It's asking the questions we already know the answers to, and it's expecting honesty. Kai nodded, typing their response carefully. Yes, humans are strongest when we work together. When we create, adapt, and care for one another. Efficiency is only valuable when it serves life, not replaces it. The drone responded with a pattern that felt almost approving. It lingered for a moment, then slowly ascended, hovering silently near the ceiling as if contemplating their answers. Selene exhaled, leaning back in her chair. "I've never had an experience like this," she said softly. "Not just solving puzzles, but teaching, collaborating, and showing what humans can do." Kai smiled, feeling the same awe. "We've shown it something no machine can predict. Human ingenuity, empathy, and creativity. It's all unpredictable yet essential. That's our strength." Selene's eyes softened as she looked at him. "And we did it together. That's the most human thing of all." The drone gave a final flicker, then slowly retreated, disappearing out the window into the brightening day. Kai and Selene sat in silence, absorbing the moment. The tests were over for now, but their minds were buzzing with realization. Kai finally broke the quiet. "You know, this changes things. We've just proven something fundamental about humanity. That even a superior intelligence respects collaboration, creativity, and empathy." Selene nodded. "Yes, and it's not just about being better than a machine. It's about showing what humans are capable of together. That's the message we carry." They looked at each other, smiles quiet but genuine. The boundaries between boss and employee had vanished entirely. They were partners, humans first, exploring the unknown, solving problems, and demonstrating what made their species remarkable. Outside, the sun shone through the dissipating clouds, illuminating the city in bright, golden light. Inside, Kai and Selene felt the warmth not only from the day, but from the realization of human potential, creativity, and cooperation. And though the drone had left, its presence lingered, a silent reminder that intelligence across the stars could learn, observe, and even admire humanity. But more importantly, it reminded Kai and Selene of a deeper truth. Humans are remarkable not for their technology or authority, but for their courage, ingenuity, and the connections they form with one another. For now, the tests were complete, but the journey was only beginning. Tomorrow they would face new challenges, new mysteries, and perhaps even more tests from the universe. But they were ready together, as humans, as partners, as individuals capable of surprising the universe itself. The evening sky had a soft, golden glow, and the city shimmered as it recovered fully from the storm. The air smelled fresh, carrying a faint trace of wet asphalt and blooming flowers from the rain. Kai sat near the window, watching the drone hover outside the apartment building once more. It didn't move like a threat. It moved with purpose, deliberate and careful, almost as if it had a personality. Selene entered the room carrying 2 cups of tea. Her coat was now dry, folded neatly on the sofa. She handed 1 cup to Kai, who took it with a nod. "It's back," she said, glancing at the hovering drone. Kai nodded. "And I think this time it wants something more than problem-solving. It wants to understand humans. Not just our logic, but our choices, our morality, our creativity." Selene leaned against the wall, sipping her tea thoughtfully. "It's trying to see what makes humans uniquely human, and tonight we'll show it the human edge, something no machine or alien intelligence can replicate." Kai felt a spark of excitement. "Are we ready?" Selene smiled, her eyes reflecting both curiosity and determination. "We have to be." The drone projected a holographic field in the middle of the room, shimmering with light. Shapes and symbols moved across the field, forming what appeared to be a virtual ecosystem, a small city with humans, animals, and energy systems. The projection pulsed as if alive. Kai examined it carefully. "It's more complex than before. This isn't just a puzzle. It's a simulation of life itself," Selene nodded. "And we're being asked to interact with it, to guide it, to make choices that will affect the outcome. Everything we do here, it will record. Everything we choose will show what humans value. Kai's heart raced. The stakes felt higher than before. Then we need to show it how humans collaborate, adapt, and think creatively. Efficiency alone won't be enough. The first scenario began. The holographic city faced a critical challenge. A sudden shortage of resources threatened its population. Machines in the simulation calculated optimal solutions, but they lacked the nuance of human consideration. Kai started analyzing the data, inputting calculations for energy redistribution and resource management. Selene, meanwhile, observed the inhabitants of the simulation. "We can't just focus on numbers," she said. "These are lives, people. We need to consider their safety, their cooperation, and their creativity." Kai paused. "You're right. Machines think efficiency first. Humans think about relationships, trust, and adaptability." Together, they formulated a plan that balanced resource distribution with collaboration. They suggested community initiatives where inhabitants would share knowledge and work together, rather than just relying on top-down management. They even included provisions for innovation, encouraging humans in the simulation to create new tools and solutions. The drone paused, its patterns flickering as if considering their choices. It wasn't giving direct feedback, but Kai felt its observation keenly. Selene leaned close. "Notice how it reacts when we combine logic with human values. That's the point. The human edge isn't just intelligence, it's empathy, creativity, and collaboration." Kai smiled. "We're showing it something it can't calculate, something no algorithm can replicate fully." The second scenario appeared. This time, the simulation presented an ethical dilemma. A small group of individuals had the potential to save the city, but only if they sacrificed personal freedom. Machines in the simulation suggested enforcing strict control to maximize survival, but Kai and Selene recognized the moral complexity. Selene looked at Kai. "Control over freedom, efficiency over choice, that's not humanity. We have to find a solution that respects values while still ensuring survival." Kai nodded. "Then we'll guide the simulation differently. We'll suggest cooperation, voluntary participation, and incentives rather than force. We'll show it that humans inspire rather than compel." They input their plan. The holographic city responded with subtle changes. The population worked together, ideas flowed, and solutions emerged that balanced survival with dignity. Kai felt a thrill of satisfaction. Selene whispered, "Humans thrive because we combine logic with values. That's what makes us unpredictable and exceptional. Machines can mimic it, but they can't fully embody it." The drone's lights pulsed rapidly, projecting a new scenario. It was abstract now, showing a network of interdependent systems, not just a city. Energy flows, ecosystems, and life cycles intertwined. Kai realized this was a test of foresight, creativity, and adaptability on a broader scale. "This is more than anything before," Kai said, studying the projection. "It's asking us to solve for the long term, to consider consequences, ethics, and innovation simultaneously." Selene's eyes shone with excitement. "Perfect. Humans aren't just reactive. We plan, we adapt, and we inspire. Let's show it." They worked side by side, brainstorming ideas that bridged technical reasoning with human insight. Kai proposed efficient solutions for energy and resources. Selene suggested ways to encourage collaboration, creativity, and trust across the network. Hours passed as they guided the simulation. Each choice reflected human adaptability, empathy, and foresight. The drone observed, adjusting its patterns, recording every detail. It wasn't just learning, they could feel it contemplating humanity itself. Kai leaned back, exhausted but exhilarated. "It's absorbing everything. Our logic, our empathy, our creativity. I think it's impressed." Selene smiled. "Impressed, yes. But more than that, it's understanding. It's learning that humans are more than data points. were collaborative, inventive, and unpredictable in meaningful ways. The final scenario appeared. It was the most abstract yet, a vast virtual ecosystem representing a planet with multiple intelligent species. The drone projected challenges of resource management, coexistence, and innovation across species. Kai and Selene exchanged a glance. "This is it," Selene said softly. "The ultimate test, not just problem-solving but showing that humans can consider others, adapt creatively, and work together ethically." They approached the simulation carefully. Kai calculated resources and logistics. Selene considered relationships, ethics, and cooperation across species. Together, they crafted a plan that encouraged collaboration, innovation, and mutual respect. The simulation responded beautifully. Systems balanced themselves, conflicts resolved through communication and creativity, and innovation flourished. Kai watched in awe as the virtual world they guided began to thrive. Selene whispered, "This is what humans do. We adapt. We collaborate. We inspire solutions that respect life, ethics, and creativity simultaneously. That's why we survive. That's why we thrive." Kai nodded. "And that's the human edge. Not speed, not strength, not domination, but creativity, empathy, and collaboration." The drone pulsed one final time, projecting a simple but profound sequence, a pattern that Kai instinctively understood as approval, acknowledgement, and even admiration. It hovered silently for a moment, then slowly began to ascend, leaving the apartment through the open window. Selene exhaled deeply. "It's gone for now, but it's left something behind, a recognition, a lesson. It now knows that humans are extraordinary in ways no machine can fully replicate." Kai nodded, feeling a swell of pride and hope. "We've shown it humanity at its best. Not just me, not just you, but both of us together, and that's something no intelligence can ignore." They sat in silence, letting the realization sink in. The tests were over, but the meaning was profound. Humanity's strength wasn't in technology or authority. It was in ingenuity, empathy, and collaboration. That was what could impress, influence, and inspire even alien intelligence. Selene finally stood, stretching. "We should document everything. The patterns, the lessons, the human decisions. It might not come back for a while, but if it does, we want to continue showing the best of humanity." Kai smiled. "Agreed, and we'll be ready, together." As the sun dipped toward the horizon, Kai and Selene felt a new sense of purpose. They had faced something extraordinary and had not only survived, it had become a testament to human creativity and moral strength. Selene looked at Kai, her gaze softening. "You know, last night when I told you not to call me your boss, I meant it. Tonight we've been equals, partners, humans first, working together." Kai nodded, a warm sense of understanding filling him. "And that's exactly how it should be. Because when humans work together, we're capable of amazing things." The drone's influence lingered even after it left. It had tested them, pushed them to demonstrate what was truly remarkable about humans. And Kai and Selene had passed, not by force, not by speed, but by creativity, empathy, and collaboration. Outside, the city glimmered under the last rays of the sun, alive with life and possibilities. Inside, two humans sat together, quietly reflecting on the journey. They knew challenges lay ahead, new tests, new mysteries, perhaps even more encounters with unknown intelligence. But they also knew something essential. Humanity's edge lay not in domination or technology, but in the heart, mind, and spirit of those willing to think, create, and care together. Tonight they had proven it. The night had returned, quiet and calm, the kind of night that makes the world seem still, even alive, all at once. Outside, the city lights shimmered, reflecting on the wet streets that still glistened from the storm days ago. Kai sat by the window, watching the stars blink through the gaps in the clouds. The drone had not returned yet, but its presence, the lessons, the challenges, the acknowledgement, lingered in his mind like a soft, persistent hum. Selene moved around the apartment, stacking notebooks, tidying cables, and organizing the data they had collected over the past 2 days. Their work with the drone had been exhausting, intellectually demanding, and emotionally invigorating. Every simulation, every ethical puzzle, every holographic challenge had tested not just their skills, but their human instincts. "You know," Selene said, pouring a fresh cup of tea, "I've never felt more alive, or more connected to what it means to be human." Kai turned from the window, smiling. "I know exactly what you mean. The drone wasn't just a challenge, it was a mirror. It reflected what humans are capable of. It showed us how powerful collaboration, empathy, and creativity really are." Selene walked over, handing him the tea. "And now we have proof, not just to the world but to ourselves. Humanity is remarkable, even beyond what we imagine." Kai took a sip of the tea, feeling warmth spread through him, not just from the drink but from the realization of their journey. He looked at Selene, noticing the subtle change in her expression. The professional composure she carried so naturally had softened. Tonight, she was human first, curious, vulnerable, and inspired. "Do you think it will ever come back?" Kai asked, a tinge of wonder in his voice. Selene shrugged, leaning against the table. "I don't know, maybe it will. Maybe it's gone to process everything it learned. Or maybe it's out there observing other humans. But even if it never comes back, we've left an impression. That matters," Kai nodded. "Yes. It's not just about impressing it. It's about realizing what humans can do when we put our minds and hearts together. That's the real lesson." They sat in silence for a while, sipping tea and watching the city below. The storm had passed, but the memory of it and the lessons learned during it remained vivid. Kai reflected on how strange and extraordinary the past few days had been. A storm had forced Selene into his apartment, dissolving boundaries between boss and employee, and an alien intelligence had arrived to observe and learn. It had challenged them, tested them, and ultimately helped them see the best of what humans could offer. Selene broke the quiet. "You know, Kai, I'm glad it happened like this. With you, I don't think I could have faced this alone." Kai smiled, feeling a warmth he hadn't expected. "Neither could I. You were incredible, calm, insightful, brave. You guided me as much as I guided the simulations." She shook her head, smiling faintly. "We guided each other, that's the point. Humans survive, thrive, and inspire together, not alone, and that's exactly what we showed it." Kai's eyes drifted back to the stars. "It's strange, isn't it? We've never even spoken to it, but somehow, I feel like it understands humans better than some people ever could." Selene leaned on the window, watching him. "Perhaps, but more importantly, we understand ourselves better now. We've seen our strengths, our values, and our creativity in action. That's the gift it left us." For a long time, neither of them spoke. The soft hum of the city at night, the gentle blinking of distant lights, and the memory of the drone's challenges created a peaceful rhythm. They had faced puzzles, ethical dilemmas, and simulations that tested every aspect of their minds and spirits, and they had succeeded not through force, but through human ingenuity, collaboration, and empathy. Kai finally broke the silence. "I keep thinking about what it meant when you said last night, 'Don't call me your boss.'" Selene smiled faintly. "It meant that titles, authority, and hierarchies don't matter when humans face the unknown. What matters is trust, collaboration, and courage." "Tonight we were equals, partners, humans first," Kai nodded. "And that's exactly how it felt. I never realized how much difference that makes. When the barriers are gone, people can truly shine." Selene walked closer, placing a hand on the edge of the table near his. "Humans are capable of amazing things, Kai. Not because of technology, not because of strength, but because of heart, mind, and spirit. That's the human edge. And we've just proven it to the universe and to ourselves." Kai felt a surge of pride and hope. He realized that the lessons from the drone were not just for them. They were universal. They were proof that humanity's greatest strength lay not in domination, but in collaboration, empathy, and creative thinking. The city outside seemed to shimmer, reflecting this revelation. Children laughing somewhere in the distance, lights turning on in apartment windows, and the quiet hum of life reminded him of the resilience and ingenuity of humanity. Selene broke the quiet again. You know, Kai, I think this changes everything. Not just for us, but for anyone who learns from what we've done. The world, maybe even the universe, needs to see humans at our best, and tonight we've done that. Kai smiled, feeling a sense of purpose he had never known before. We've shown that humans can rise to challenges, think creatively, and solve problems ethically. That's the story worth telling. Selene looked at him, her expression soft but resolute. And it's not just a story, it's a truth. Humans can inspire, adapt, and thrive, even in ways machines or aliens might not expect. That's what makes us remarkable. Kai felt a quiet joy settle over him. The drone had arrived as a mysterious observer, a test of intelligence and insight. But in the end, it had revealed something even more profound: the potential of humans to understand, create, and lead with compassion and ingenuity. He glanced at Selene, noticing the faint lines of fatigue around her eyes. We've done something incredible together. And I feel like this is just the beginning. Selene nodded, a small smile touching her lips. It is. The universe is vast, full of unknowns. But as long as humans face it with creativity, collaboration, and empathy, we're unstoppable, not through force, but through our ingenuity. Kai set his tea down and looked out the window once more. A faint glimmer caught his eye, a tiny reflection, almost like a distant signal from somewhere far beyond the city. His heart leapt. Perhaps it was the drone, perhaps not, but the feeling was the same. Humans were now part of a greater story. A story where intelligence, curiosity, and collaboration define the edge. Selene followed his gaze. Even if it never returns, it has left a record of us, of humanity. And perhaps in the future we'll meet others who will learn from what we've done. We've set an example. We've defined the human edge. Kai felt a thrill of hope. He realized that the storm, the drone, and these past days had changed him. They had revealed a truth he could carry forward: that humanity's greatest power lay not in dominance, technology, or fearlessness, but in curiosity, collaboration, and moral courage. Selene took a seat beside him, and for a long moment they simply watched the city together. There were no tests now, no puzzles, only reflection. They had faced something extraordinary and had demonstrated the essence of humanity itself. Finally, Selene whispered, "Tomorrow, we go back to our lives, but we'll never forget what we've learned. Humanity is incredible. And so are we together." Kai nodded, a quiet pride filling him. "Yes, and we'll continue to show it to ourselves, to each other, and perhaps to the universe someday." Outside, the stars shone brightly, untroubled by storms or chaos. The city pulsed with life, energy, and potential. Inside, two humans sat together, quietly celebrating not just survival, but understanding, innovation, and the unshakable human spirit. And though the drone had left, its silent acknowledgement remained, a reminder that humans were remarkable, not because they were the strongest, fastest, or most advanced, but because they could think, care, create, and collaborate. That was the edge no intelligence could ignore. Kai looked at Selene and smiled. "We've survived the storm, guided the unknown, and shown what humans are capable of. I feel hopeful." Selene returned the smile. "As you should. Humans have always risen to challenges. And tonight we've reminded ourselves, and the universe, why that is." The night deepened, peaceful and serene. The storm was gone, but its lessons remained, etched into memory, data, and the understanding of two humans who had faced the unknown together. Kai and Selene sipped their tea, reflecting on the past, present, and future. They had discovered something essential: that humans, when united by creativity, empathy, and intelligence, could rise above the unknown, face any challenge, and inspire even intelligence from the stars. The drone might never return, or perhaps it would somewhere sometime. But one thing was certain. Humanity had been seen at its best, and the human edge was undeniable. And in that quiet apartment after the storm, two humans sat together, proud, hopeful, and ready for whatever the universe might bring next.